The Secret Island by Enid Blyton. Mike, Peggy and Nora were sitting in the fields talking together. They were very unhappy. Nora was crying and wouldn't stop. As they sat there, they heard a low call. "Cooey." "There's Jack," said Mike. "Dry your eyes, Nora. Jack will cheer you up." A boy came running by the hedge and sat down by them. He had a face as brown as a berry and bright blue eyes that shone with mischief. "Hello," he said. "What's up, Nora? Crying again?"
"Yes," said Nora, wiping her eyes. "Aunt Harriet slapped me 6 times this morning because I didn't wash the curtains well enough. Look."
She showed him her arm, red with slaps. "Oh, it's a shame," said Jack. "If only our father and mother were here, they wouldn't let us live like this," said Mike. "How long is it since they've been gone?" asked Jack. "It's over 2 years now," said Mike. "Dad built a fine new aeroplane, you know, and he set off to fly to Australia. Mother went with him because she loves flying too. They nearly got there, and then nothing more was heard of them."
"And I know Aunt Harriet and Uncle Henry think that they will never come back again," said Nora, beginning to cry once more.
"Don't cry any more, Nora," said Peggy. "Your eyes will get so red and horrid. I'll do the washing instead of you next time." Jack put his arm round Nora. He liked her best of them all. She was the smallest, although she was Mike's twin. She had a little face and a head of black curls. Peggy had yellow hair and was a year older. Nobody knew how old Jack was. He didn't know himself. He lived with his grandfather on a tumble-down farm and worked as hard as a man, although he wasn't much bigger than Mike. He had made friends with the children as they wandered through the fields. He knew how to catch rabbits. He knew how to catch fish in the river. He knew where the best nuts and blackberries were to be found. In fact, he knew everything, the children thought. Jack was always dressed in raggedy things. His feet were bare, and his legs were scratched with brambles. He never grumbled. He never whined. He made a joke of everything, and he had been a good friend to the 3 miserable children.
"Ever since Aunt Harriet made up her mind that Mummy and Daddy wouldn't come back, she has been perfectly horrid," said Nora.
"And so has Uncle Henry," said Mike. "We none of us go to school now, and I have to help Uncle in the fields from morning till night."
"I do every bit of the washing now," said Nora. "I wouldn't mind the little things, but the sheets are so big and heavy."
"And I do all the cooking," said Peggy. "Yesterday I burnt a cake because the oven got too hot, and Aunt Harriet sent me to bed for the rest of the day without anything to eat at all." "I climbed through the window and gave her some bread and cheese," said Mike, "and Uncle caught me and shook me so hard I couldn't stand up afterwards. I had to go without my supper, and my breakfast this morning was only a small piece of bread."
"We haven't had any new clothes for months," said Peggy. "My shoes are dreadful, and I don't know what we shall do when the winter comes, because none of our coats will fit us."
"You're much worse off than I am," said Jack. "I've never had anything nice, so I don't miss it. But you've had everything you wanted, and now it's all taken away from you. You haven't even a father and mother you can go to for help." "Do you remember your father and mother, Jack?" asked Mike. "Did you always live with your old grandfather?" "I never remember anyone except him," said Jack. "He's talking of going to live with an aunt of mine. If he does, I shall be left all alone, for she won't have me too."
"Oh, Jack, whatever will you do?" asked Nora.
"I shall be all right," said Jack. "The thing is, what are you 3 going to do? Oh, I hate to see you all unhappy. If only we could all run away together." "We should be found at once and brought back," said Mike gloomily. "If I knew some place where we would never be found, I would run away, and take the 2 girls with me too. I hate to see them slapped and worked hard by Aunt Harriet." "Now listen to me," said Jack suddenly, in such an earnest voice that all the 3 children turned to him at once. "If I tell you a very great secret,
Will you promise never to say a word about it to anyone?" "Oh, yes, Jack, we promise," said all three. "Well, listen. I know a place where nobody could find us if we ran away." "Where is it, Jack?" "I'll show you this evening," said Jack, getting up. "Be by the lakeside at 8 o'clock, when all your work is done, and I'll meet you there. I must go now, or Grandpa will be angry with me, and perhaps lock me into my room so that I can't get out again today." Jack ran off, and the three children made their way slowly back to Uncle Henry's farm. They'd taken their dinner out into the fields to eat, and now they had to go back to work. Nora had a great deal of ironing to do, and Peggy had to clean the kitchen. "I've got to go and clean out the barn," said Mike to the girls, "but I'll be in at supper time, and afterwards we'll see about this great secret of Jack's." They all got into trouble, because they were thinking so hard of the evening that they didn't do their work to Aunt Harriet's liking, nor to Uncle Henry's either. Nora got a few more slaps, and Peggy was scolded so hard that she cried bitterly into her overall. She was made to scrub the kitchen floor all over again. Mike was shouted at by Uncle Henry for spilling some corn in the barn. The little boy said nothing, but he made up his mind that if it was possible to run away in safety, he would do so, and take the girls with him too. The children ate their supper of bread and cheese in silence. When they had finished, Mike spoke to his aunt. "Please, may we go for a walk in the fields before we go to bed?" he asked. "No, you can't," said Aunt Harriet. "You'll just go to bed, all of you. There's a lot of work to do tomorrow, and I want you up early." The children looked at one another in dismay, but they had to do as they were told. They went upstairs to the big bedroom they all shared. "I believe Aunt Harriet and Uncle Henry are going out tonight, and that's why they want us to go to bed early," said Mike. "Well, if they do go out, we'll slip down and meet Jack by the river." "We won't get undressed then," said Nora. "We'll just slip under the sheets dressed, and then it won't take us long to run down to the lake." The three children listened hard. They heard the front door close. Mike popped out of bed and ran to the front room. From there he could see the path to the gate. He saw his uncle and aunt walk down it, dressed to go out. He ran back to the others. "We'll wait 5 minutes," he said, "and then we'll go." They waited quietly. Then they all slipped downstairs and out of the back door. They ran down to the lake as fast as they could. Jack was there, waiting for them. "Hello, Jack," said Mike. "Here we are at last." "What's your great secret, Jack?" asked Nora. "We're longing to know." "Well, listen," said Jack. "You know what a big lake this is, don't you? Perfectly wild all round except at the two ends where there are a few farmhouses and cottages. Now, I know a little island, a good way up the south side of the lake, that I'm sure nobody knows at all. I only found it quite by chance one day. The woods come right down to the lakeside opposite the island, and they're so thick that I don't think anyone has ever been through them, and so no one can have seen my island." "Jack, Jack, take us to your secret island," begged Nora. "Oh, we must go. We're all tired, but we must see the secret island." "Come on, then," said Jack. "Follow me. It's a good way." The barefooted boy took the three children across the fields to a wood. He thread his way through the trees as if he were a rabbit. The wood thinned out and changed to a common, which, in turn, gave way to another wood. But this time the trees were so thick that it seemed as if there was no way through them at all. But Jack kept on. At last they caught sight of the gleam of water. They had come back to the lakeside again. The evening was dim. The sun had sunk long since, and the children could hardly see. Jack pushed his way through the trees that grew down to the waterside. He stood there and pointed silently to something. The children crowded round him. "My secret island," said Jack. And so it was. The little island seemed to float on the dark lake waters. Trees grew on it, and a little hill rose in the middle of it. It was a mysterious island, lonely and beautiful. All the children stood and gazed at it, loving it and longing to go to it. It looked so secret, almost magic. "Well," said Jack at last, "what do you think? Shall we run away and live on the secret island?" "Yes," whispered all the children. "Let's." The 3 children thought of nothing else but Jack's secret island all the next day. "Mike, we must go," said Nora. "Mike, let's tell Jack we'll go," said Peggy. Mike scratched his curly black head. He felt old and worried. He wanted to go very badly. But would the 3 of them really be able to stand a wild life like that? No proper beds to sleep in, perhaps no proper food to eat, and suppose one of them were ill? Well, they would have to chance all that. They could always come back if things went too wrong. "We'll go," said Mike. "We'll plan it all with Jack. He knows better than we do." So that night, when they met Jack, the 4 of them laid their plans. "Could we go over to the island and just see what it's like before we go to live there?" asked Nora. "I would so love to see it." "Yes," said Jack. "We'll go on Sunday." "Well, how can we go?" asked Mike. "Do we have to swim?" "No," said Jack. "I have an old boat. It was one that had been left to fall to pieces, and I found it and patched it up. I'll take you over in that." The children could hardly wait for Sunday to come. They had to do a certain amount of work on Sundays, but usually they were allowed to take their dinner out and have a picnic afterwards. It was June. The days were long and sunny. The farm garden was full of peas, broad beans, gooseberries and ripening cherries. The children stole into it and picked as many pea pods as they could find and pulled up 2 big lettuces. They had a loaf of bread between them, some butter and some slices of ham, as well as the peas and lettuces. Mike pulled up some carrots too. He said that they would taste most delicious with the ham. They hurried off to meet Jack. He was by the lakeside, carrying a bag on his back. He had his dinner in it. He showed them some fine red cherries and a round cake. "Mrs. Lane gave me these for hoeing her garden yesterday," he said. "We'll have a fine dinner between us." "Where's the boat, Jack?" said Nora. "You wait and see," said Jack. He set off in the hot June sunshine, and the 3 children followed him. He kept close to the lakeside, and although the children kept a sharp lookout for the boat, they did not see it until Jack stopped and showed it to them. "See that great alder bush hanging over the lake just there?" he said. "Well, my boat's underneath it. It's well hidden, isn't it?" The children pulled out the boat from under the thick tree. It was quite a big one, but very, very old. It had a good deal of water in, and Jack set everyone to work bailing it out. There was an old pair of oars in the boat, and Jack put them in place. "Now get in. Would you like to take an oar, Mike?" Of course Mike would. The 2 boys rowed over the water. The sun shone down hotly, but there was a little breeze that blew every now and again. Soon the children saw the secret island in the distance. The secret island had looked mysterious enough on the night they had seen it before, but now, swimming in the hot June haze, it seemed more enchanting than ever. "Here's the landing place," said Jack, and he guided the boat to a sloping sandy beach. He pulled it up on the sand, and the children jumped out and looked round. The landing place was a natural little cove, a lovely spot for a picnic, but picnickers never came here. Only a lonely otter lay on the sand now and again, and moorhens scuttled across it. No fire had ever been made on this little beach to boil a kettle. No bits of old orange peel lay about, or rusty tins. It was quite unspoilt. "Let's leave our things here and explore a bit," said Mike. They left the little cove and went up through the thick trees. There were willows, alders, hazels, and elderberries at first, and then, as they went up the hill that lay behind the cover, there were silver birches and oaks. The hill was quite steep, and from the top the children could see a very long way, up the lake and down the lake. "I say, If we come here to live, this hill will make an awfully good place to watch for enemies from, said Mike excitedly.
Yes, said Jack. Nobody'd be able to take us by surprise.
We must come here, we must, said Nora. Oh, look at those rabbits, Peggy. They're as tame as can be. Why are they so tame, Mike?
I suppose because they're not used to people, said Mike. What's the other side of the hill, Jack? Shall we go down to it? There are caves on the other side of the hill, said Jack. I haven't explored those. They'd make good hiding places if anyone ever came to look for us here.
Jack, where shall we live on this island? Said Peggy, who always liked to have everything well settled in her mind.
We shall build a house of wood, said Jack. I know how to. That will do finely for the summer, and for the winter we will have to find a cave, I think. The children gazed at one another in glee. A house of wood built by themselves, and a cave. They went back to the little landing place, hungry and happy. They sat down and ate their bread and ham, carrots and peas, cherries and lettuces and cake. It was the loveliest meal they had ever had in their lives, they thought.
If I could live here, on this secret island, always and always and always, and never grow up at all, I would be quite happy, said Nora.
Well, we'll have a shot at living here for a good while at least, said Jack. Now, when shall we come? And what shall we bring? Said Mike. Well, we don't really need a great deal at present, said Jack. We can make soft beds of heather and bracken to lie on at night. What would be useful would be things like enamel mugs and plates and knives. I'll bring an axe and a very sharp woodman's knife. We'll need those when we build our house. Oh, and matches would be most useful for lighting fires. We shall have to cook our meals. I'll bring my fishing line along too. The more the children talked about their plan, the more excited they got. At last they had arranged what to bring. They were gradually to hide things in a hollow tree by the lakeside, and then, when the time came, they could carry them to the boat and row off to the secret island ready to set up house there. We'd better fix a day for starting off, said Jack. What about a week from now? Sunday would be a good day for running away, because no one will come to look for us until night time when we don't go home.
Yes! A week today!
Cried everyone. Now we must go home, said Jack, setting off to the boat. You can row if you like, Mike, and I'll bail out the water as we go. Get in, you girls. Aye, aye, Captain, they sang out. Off they all went, floating across the water in the evening light. What would they be doing next Sunday? All that week, the three children carried out their plans. Aunt Harriet and Uncle Henry could not understand what was different about the children. They did not seem to mind being scolded at all. The children took all the clothes they possessed down to the hollow tree by the lakeside. Mike took 4 enamel cups, some enamel plates, and 2 enamel dishes. Nora smuggled down an old kettle that Aunt Harriet had put away in a cupboard. Peggy took a frying pan and a saucepan to the hollow tree, and had to put up with a dreadful scolding when her aunt couldn't find them. Jack took a saucepan and an axe and a fine sharp knife. He also took some small knives and forks and spoons, for the other children did not dare to take these. "Can you get some empty tins to store things in?" asked Jack. "Yes, I'll get some," said Mike. "Uncle has plenty in the shed. And could you get matches, Jack? Aunt only leaves 1 box out, and that won't go far." "Well, I've got a small magnifying glass," said Jack, and he showed it to the others. "Look, if I focus the rays of the sun onto that bit of paper over there, see what happens. It burns it, and hey presto, there's a fire ready made." "Oh, good," said Mike. "We'll use that on a sunny day, Jack, and save our matches." "I'm bringing my work basket in case we need to sew anything," said Peggy. "And I've got a box of mixed nails and an old hammer," said Mike. "I found them in the shed." "We're getting on," said Jack, grinning. "I say, what a time we're going to have." The old hollow tree by the lakeside was soon full of the queerest collection of things. Not a day went by without something being added to it. At last, Sunday came. The children were up long before their uncle and aunt. They crept into the kitchen garden and picked a basket of peas, pulled up 6 lettuces, added as many ripe broad beans as they could find, a bunch of young carrots, some radishes, and putting their hands into the nest boxes of the hens, they found 6 new-laid eggs. Nora crept indoors and went to the larder. What could she take that Aunt Harriet wouldn't notice that morning? Some tea? Yes. A tin of cocoa from the top shelf, a packet of currants, and a tin of rice from the store shelf too. A big loaf and a few cakes from the cake tin. The little girl stuffed them all into her basket and raced out to join the others. Long before Aunt Harriet was up, all these things were safely in the hollow tree. They went back to the farm for the last time to breakfast. Peggy cooked the breakfast and hoped Aunt would not notice that her long iron cooking spoon was gone. She also hoped that Aunt would not want to get another candle from the packet in the larder, for Peggy knew Mike had taken the rest of them, and had taken an old lantern of Uncle's too. The children ate their breakfast in silence. Aunt Harriet looked at them. "I suppose you think you're going off for a picnic today," she said. "Well, you are not. You can stay and weed the kitchen garden, Peggy and Nora, and I've no doubt Uncle Henry can set Mike something to do. Someone has been taking cakes out of my tin, and so you'll all stay in today." The hearts of the 3 children sank. Today of all days! As soon as the girls were washing up alone in the scullery, Mike looked in at the window. "You girls slip off down to the lake as soon as you get a chance," he said. "Wait there for me. I won't be long." Peggy and Nora washed up a few more things, and then saw their aunt going upstairs. "She's gone to look out Uncle's Sunday suit and shirt," whispered Nora. "Quick, now's our chance." They raced out of the back door, down the path, and out into the fields. In 5 minutes' time, they were by the hollow tree, well out of sight. Jack was not there yet. Mike waited for the moment when his aunt discovered that the girls had gone, and then walked into the kitchen. "What's the matter, Aunt Harriet?" he asked, pretending to be very much surprised at her angry face and voice. "Where have those 2 girls gone?" "I expect they've only gone to get in the clothes or something. Shall I go and find them for you?" "Yes, and tell them they'll get well slapped for running off like this without finishing their work." Mike ran off, calling to his uncle that he was on an errand for his aunt. So Uncle Henry said nothing, but let him go. Mike tore across the fields to the lakeside and met the 2 girls there. They hugged one another in joy. "Now, where's Jack?" said Mike. "He said he would meet us as soon as he could." "There he is," said Nora. And sure enough, there was Jack coming across the field, waving to them. He carried a heavy bag into which he had crammed all sorts of things at the very last moment. Rope, an old mackintosh, 2 books, some newspapers, and other things. His face was shining with excitement. "Good, you're here," he said. "Yes, but we nearly couldn't come," said Nora, and she told Jack what had happened. "Now, we've got a lot to do," said Jack seriously. "First, all these things must be carried from the hollow tree to the boat. I expect we shall have to come back to the tree 3 or 4 times before it's emptied." The 4 of them set off happily, carrying as much as they could. The sun was hot, and they puffed and panted, but who cared? They were off to the secret island at last. It was a good thing that the boat was fairly big, or it would have never taken everything. The children had to bail out a good deal of water before they could put anything in the bottom. It leaked badly, but as long as someone could bail out with a tin, it was all right. "Now then," said Jack, looking round at the shore to see that nothing was left behind. "Are we ready?" "Aye, aye, Captain," roared the other 3. "Push off." The boat was pushed off. Mike and Jack took an oar each, for the boat was heavy and needed 2 people to pull it. It floated easily out onto the deeper water. "We're off at last,"
said Nora, in a little happy voice that sounded almost as if she was going to cry. It was a long way to the island. The sun rose higher and higher. The adventurers felt hotter and hotter. At last Nora pointed excitedly in front. "The secret island!" she cried. "The secret island!" Mike and Jack stopped rowing for a moment, and the boat floated on slowly by itself, whilst the four gazed at the lonely little island hidden so well on the heart of the lake. Their own island. It had no name. It was just the secret island. Mike and Jack rowed on again. They came to the little sandy cove beneath the willow trees. Jack jumped out and pulled the boat in. The others jumped out too and gazed round. "We're really here! We're really here! We're really here!" squealed Nora, jumping up and down and round in delight. "Come on, Nora, give us a hand," ordered Jack. "We've got a lot to do before night, you know." Nora ran to help. The boat had to be unloaded, and that was quite a job. All the things were put on the beach under the willow trees for the time being. By the time that was finished, the children were hotter than ever and very hungry and thirsty. "Oh, for a drink," groaned Mike. "Peggy, do you remember the way to the spring we found last Sunday?" asked Jack. "You do? Well, just go and fill this kettle with water, will you? We'll all have a drink and something to eat." Peggy ran off up the hill and down the other side to the spring. She filled the kettle and went back. The others had put out enamel mugs ready to drink from. Mike had put out a loaf of bread, some young carrots, a piece of cheese each, and a cake. What a meal that was! How they laughed and giggled and chattered. Then they lay back in the sun and shut their eyes. Jack said, "This won't do. We've got to get our beds for the night and arrange a good sleeping place. Come on, everyone, to work, to work." Peggy and Nora washed up the mugs and dishes in the lake water and set them in the sun to dry. The boys put all the stores in a good place and covered them with the old mackintosh in case it should rain. Tomorrow they would start to build their house. "This looks a fine place to sleep," said Jack. "Look, do you see this little place here, almost surrounded by gorse and carpeted with heather? The girls could sleep here, and we could sleep just outside their cosy spot to protect them. The oak trees would shelter us nicely overhead." "Oh, I do think this is fine. I do, cried Nora. She lay down on the heather. "It's as soft as can be." "All the same, Jack, the heather won't feel quite so soft when we've lain on it a few hours," said Mike. "We'd better get some armfuls of bracken too, hadn't we?" "Yes," said Jack. "Come on up the hill. There's plenty of bracken there." The four children gathered armfuls of bracken and put it out in the sun to wither and dry. "Well, there are our bedrooms ready," said Jack. "Now we'd better find a place to put our stores in. We won't be too far from the water because it's so useful for washing ourselves and our dishes in." The boys wandered up the beach, and at the back of the sandy cove they found just the very place they wanted. There was a sandy bank there, with a few old willows growing on top of it. Rain had worn away the sandy soil from their roots, and underneath there was a sort of shallow cave with roots running across it here and there. "Look at that," said Jack in delight. "Just the place we want for our stores. Nora, Peggy, come and look here." The girls came running. "Oh," said Peggy, pleased. "We can use those big roots as shelves and stand our tins and cups and dishes on them. Oh, it's a proper little larder." "Well, if you girls get the stores from the cove and arrange them neatly here," said Jack, "Mike and I will go and fill the kettle from the spring, and we'll see if there isn't a nearer spring, because it's a long way up the hill and down the other side." Leaving Peggy and Nora to arrange the tins, baskets, and odds and ends neatly in the root larder, the two boys went up the hill behind the cove. They separated to look for a spring, and Mike found one. It was a very tiny one, gushing out from under a small rock, and it ran down the hill like a little waterfall. "I expect it runs down into the lake," said Mike. "It's a very small spring, but we can use it to fill our kettle, and it won't take us quite so long as going to the other spring. If we have to live in the caves during the winter, the other spring will be more useful then, for it will be quite near the cave." They went down to the girls with the full kettle. Nora and Peggy proudly showed the boys how they had arranged the stores. "It's a nice dry place," said Peggy. "It's just right for a larder, and it's so nice and near the cove. Jack, where are we going to build our house?" Jack took the girls and Mike to the west end of the cove, where there was a thicket of willows. He forced his way through them and showed the others a fine, clear place right in the very middle of the trees. "Here's the very place," he said. "No one would ever guess there was a house just here if we built one. The willows would grow so thickly that I don't suppose anyone but ourselves would ever know that they could be got through." They talked about their house until they were tired out. They made their way back to the little beach, and Jack said they would each have a cup of cocoa, a piece of cake, and go to bed. He and Mike soon made a fire. There were plenty of dry twigs about, and bigger bits of wood. He used a match. He set the kettle on the fire to boil. They lay on their backs in the sand, looking up at the evening sky, listening to the crackle of the wood, and smelling a mixture of wood smoke and honeysuckle. At last, the kettle sent out a spurt of steam and began to hiss. It was boiling. Nora made the cocoa and handed it round in mugs. "There's no milk," she said, "but there is some sugar." They munched their cake and drank their cocoa. Though it had no milk in it, it was the nicest they had ever tasted. "I do like seeing the fire," said Nora. "Oh, Jack, why are you stamping it out?" "Well," said Jack, "people may be looking for us tonight, you know, and a spire of smoke from this island would give our hiding place away nicely. Come on now, everyone to bed. We've hard work to do tomorrow." "Our first night here," said Mike, standing up and looking down on the quiet waters of the lake. "We are all alone, the four of us, without a roof over our heads even. But I'm so happy." "So am I," said everyone. The girls went to their hidden green room in the gorse and lay down in their clothes. Mike threw them the old ragged rug. "Throw that over yourselves," he said. "It may be cold tonight, sleeping out for the first time. You won't be frightened, will you?" "No," said Peggy. "You two boys will be near, and anyway, what is there to be frightened of?" They lay down on the soft heather and pulled the old rug over them. The springy heather was softer than the old hard bed they had been used to at home. The little girls put their arms round one another and shut their eyes. They were asleep almost at once. What fun it was to wake up that first morning on the island. Jack awoke first. He heard a thrush singing so loudly on a tree nearby that he woke up with a jump. Soon all four children were up and about. Jack made them take off their things and have a dip in the lake. It was simply lovely, but the water was cold at first. When they dried themselves on an old sack, for they had no towels, the children felt terribly hungry. But Jack had been busy. He had set his fishing line, and even as they bathed, he had seen the float jerk up and down. It was not long before Jack proudly laid 4 fine trout on the sand of the cove and set about to make a fire to cook them. Mike went to fill the kettle to make some tea. Peggy got some big potatoes out of the sack and put them almost in the fire to cook them in their skins. Jack found the frying pan in the storeroom and put a piece of margarine in to fry the fish, which he knew exactly how to clean. "I don't know what we should do without you," said Mike as he watched Jack. "Goodness, how I shall enjoy my breakfast." They all did. The tea didn't taste very nice without milk. "It's a pity we can't get milk," said Jack. "We shall miss that, I'm afraid. Now, let's all wash up and put everything away, and then we'll start on our house." In great excitement, everything was washed up and put away. Then Jack led the way through the thick willow trees, and they came to the little clear place in the centre of them. "Now, this is how I mean to build the house," he said. "Do you see these little willow trees here? one there, 2 there, and 2 there. Well, I'll climb up on this first willow tree and swing the branches over with my weight. All you others must catch hold of them and hold them till I slip down. Then I'll climb another tree and bend those branches over too. We'll tie them together, and then I'll climb up the other trees. Once we've got all the top branches bending down, touching one another and overlapping nicely, we can cut long willow sticks and lace our roof together. I'll show you how to. Jack swung himself up into one of the little willow trees. It was only a young one with a small trunk, but it had a head of long, fine branches, easy to bend. Jack swung them down, and the girls and Mike caught them easily. They held on to them, whilst Jack slid down the tree and climbed another. He did the same thing there, bending down the supple branches until they reached and rested on top of those bent down from the other tree.
"Tie them together, Mike," shouted Jack. "Peggy, go and find that rope I brought."
Peggy darted off. She soon came back with the rope. Mike twisted it round the branches of the 2 trees and tied them firmly together. The whole morning was spent in this way. By dinner time, all the 6 trees had been carefully bent over. Jack showed Mike and the girls how to weave the branches together so that they held one another and made a fine, close roof. You see, if we use the trees like this, their leaves will still grow and will make a fine, thick roof, said Jack. Now, although our house has no walls as yet, we at least have a fine roof to shelter under if it rains.
"I want something to eat," said Nora. "I'm so hungry that I feel I could eat snails."
"Well, get out 4 eggs and we'll have some with potatoes," said Jack. "We'll boil the eggs in our saucepan. There's plenty of potatoes too. After the eggs are boiled, we'll boil some potatoes and mash them up. That'll be nice for a change. We'll nibble a few carrots too and have some of those cherries." "You'd better catch some more fish for tonight, Jack," said Peggy. "I hope our stores are going to last out a bit. We do seem to eat a lot." "I've been thinking about that," said Jack, watching the potatoes boiling. "I think I'll have to row to land occasionally and get more food. I can get it from Grandad's farm. There are plenty of potatoes there, and I can always get eggs from the hen house. Some of the hens are mine, and there's a cow that's really mine too, for Grandad gave her to me when she was a calf." "I wish we had hens and a cow here," said Peggy. "We should have lots of milk then, and plenty of eggs."
"How will we get hens and a cow here?" said Mike, laughing.
"I think Jack's idea of rowing across to land sometimes is a good one. He can go at night. He knows the way and could get back before day breaks." "It's dangerous, though," said Peggy. "Suppose he were caught. We couldn't do without Jack." In the afternoon, they returned to the willow thicket. Jack made himself busy. He chopped down some willow saplings with his axe and cut off the longer branches. "We'll use these to drive into the ground for walls," said Jack. "Where's that old spade, Mike? Did you bring it as I said?" "Yes, here it is," said Mike. "Shall I dig holes to drive the sapling trunks into?" "Yes," said Jack. "Dig them fairly deep." So Mike dug hard in the hot sun, making holes for Jack to ram the willow wood into. The girls stripped the leaves off the chopped-down trees, and with Jack's knife cut off the smaller twigs. They trimmed up the bigger branches nicely. Everyone worked hard until the sun began to go down. The house was not yet built. It would take some days to do that, but at any rate there was a fine roof and part of the wall was up. "We'll do no more today," said Jack. "We're all tired. I'll go and see if there are any fish on my line." But alas, there were no fish that night. "There's some bread left and a packet of currants," said Peggy, "and some lettuces and margarine. Shall we have those?" "This food question is going to be a difficult one," said Jack thoughtfully. "We've plenty of water. We shall soon have a house, but we must have food or we'll starve. I shall catch rabbits, I think." "Oh, no, Jack, don't do that," said Nora. "I do like rabbits so much." "So do I, Nora," said Jack.
But if rabbits were not caught, the land would soon be overrun with them, you know. You've often had rabbit pie, haven't you? And I guess you liked it too.
Yes, I did, said Nora. Well, if you're sure you can catch them so that they're not hurt or in pain, Jack, I suppose you'll have to.
You leave it to me, said Jack. I don't like hurting things any more than you do. Ever since Peggy said she wished we had a cow and some hens, I've been thinking. I believe we could manage to get them over here onto the island. Then we'd be all right. Mike, Peggy and Nora stared at Jack in amazement. Let's hurry up and get the supper, said Jack, smiling at their surprised faces. I'm hungry. We'll think about things tomorrow. We'll have our meal now, and a quiet read afterwards, and then go to bed early. Tomorrow we'll go on with the house. Next day, after a meal of fish and lettuce, the 4 children worked hard at the house. Jack cut down enough young willows to make the walls. Mike dug the holes to drive in the willow stakes, which were set a little way apart, and Jack showed the girls how to take thin, supple willow branches and weave them in and out of the stakes to hold the walls in place and to fill up the gaps. That day, all the walls were finished, and the girls had gone a good way towards weaving the stakes together so that the walls stood firmly and looked nice and thick. I think it's lovely, said Peggy. What shall we call our house, Jack? Willow House, said Jack. That's the best name for it. It's a good name, said Peggy. I like it. I like everything here. It's the loveliest adventure that ever was. If only we had more to eat, said Mike, who seemed to feel hungry every hour of the day. That's the only thing I don't like about the adventure. Yes, said Jack. We'll have to put that right. Don't worry. We shall get over it somehow.